Red Flags of Emotional Repression Part 42, Chronic Seriousness. Guys, seriously, this epidemic of chronic seriousness, it's very serious. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's not even that big a deal. But I would have told you differently not even a decade ago. See, I am a somewhat newly recovering serious person. Starting in my teens all the way up through my 70s, I was afflicted with chronic seriousness. To the chronically serious, there's no laughing matters. Everything's a big deal, and people should take that very seriously. But why? Why does seriousness become such a malady for some people? Well, the short answer, as usual, is emotional repression. But the longer explanation is what burying and repressing emotions produces. In the Killer Bee Inquiries, there's an axiom that says when we bury what's true, we're forced to identify with what's false. Which means when we've got buried, repressed childhood emotions in our body, what gets produced is an egoic mask or a false self. Take, for example, myself. For decades upon decades, unbeknownst to me, I was repressing vulnerable emotions like hurt, grief, and sadness in my body, which produced an Earl that was a very tough, stoic, impenetrable wall. And I'll give you one guess as to whether this guy was a lighthearted goof or chronically serious. Good guess. See, the reason people have to be so damn serious all the time is because when they're living in emotional repression and its resultant pretense, they're having to constantly maintain an image in order to not have to feel things that they don't want to feel. And that's serious business. So you know what to look for? Here's some common manifestations of chronic seriousness across the emotional repression spectrum. Oh, and in case you don't know about that spectrum, here's a brief rundown. Most all of us repress all emotions to one degree or another, but generally our particular nervous system will favor one side or the other. Meaning there'll either be more frozen fear in the body around the anger and other powerful emotions side of the spectrum, or the hurt, sadness, and vulnerable emotions side. So back to the field guide. When you're looking to spot the chronic seriousness of an anger repressor in the wild, or someone who's afraid of their anger and power and has to present as kind, loving, and compassionate, look no further than relational seriousness. Seriousness around therapy and healing. A lot of seriousness around safety. Social justice seriousness. Seriousness around the victim-perpetrator paradigm and taking very seriously speaking on behalf of others. See, the reason anger repressors can get so caught up in chronic seriousness around these kinds of issues is because, according to the axiom, since they're burying, repressing, and hiding the emotions that they consider bad, which is anger, rage, and power, they're forced to present as good, right? The false self is a good person. Now, hurt and vulnerability repressors, like myself. I've already said a little bit about this, but if you're looking to spot how our chronic seriousness manifests, then watch for these things. Seriousness around being independent. Strength and power seriousness. And taking very seriously spotting and avoiding manipulation. Chronic seriousness in that area, as well as about being in control or dominant in a particular situation. Hurt and vulnerability repressors are also very serious about protection and preparation, which makes sense given that the nature of their particular repression involves terror around having to feel hurt or vulnerable. Now, don't take this as me saying not to be serious about any of these things. You know, use your judgment. What I'm saying is watch for where you're chronically serious. Watch for what you're over-focused on and that you're likely suffering about, because that's where your emotional repression lies. And once we know where it lies, then we can go about resolving it, coming out of our chronic seriousness and back into emotional authenticity. If you'd like to learn how to do that, click the link in the caption or the bio.